Hey Douglas, how you doing?
Hi, great. Good to be with you.
Your book, Survival of the Richest, Escape Fantasies of the Tech Billionaires. I've thought a lot about this. I was obviously involved in the movie Don't Look Up, whose ending, for those who haven't seen it, deals with billionaires leaving the planet to try to survive an apocalypse. The title of the book obviously evokes the same image. The book is about this idea about billionaires fleeing and what they're doing to try to insulate themselves from the crises they are creating. And it starts out with a real life meeting you had in the middle of the desert with a group of billionaires who are actually trying to do this. So let's start there. How did you find yourself in the desert with a bunch of billionaires talking about the apocalypse?
I thought I was doing a talk, one of these kind of high priced talks for wealthy tech investors that people like me support our writing habits by going and doing. So I was flown out there and it was a whole thing. And I'm sitting in the green room waiting to go on. And instead of miking me up and taking me out on a stage, these 5 men are escorted in. They sit around this table and start peppering me with all these questions about the future. And it starts out, simple, like Bitcoin or Ethereum, virtual reality, augmented reality, where do they place their bets? And I disclosed to them, I would have told them Betamax and been wrong, as opposed to, VHS. That's not what I do. And then they got to New Zealand or Alaska. Where do I put my bunker? And they started asking me then these questions about surviving the apocalypse. Like, what do they do with their bunker? And how do they, protect themselves from this threat or that? Because they believed that this event was coming. Apparently they had people do the statistical analysis and they believed there was a 20% chance of the event occurring sometime before the end of their lives. And so they were taking 20% of their capital and investing it in surviving that event. And I thought I was being punked. I thought there was going to be a camera and this is like, oh, we're going to get this, reveal that this lefty media theorist is actually helping billionaires. And but no, they believed it. And I tried to poke holes in it. I remember I said to them, well, they talked about how they had Navy SEALs flying out to protect their bunkers. And I said, yeah, well, are these Navy SEALs going to continue to protect you once their money's worthless? And they panicked. So these guys who think they're so friggin' brilliant, they're starting to jot down, figure out how to get Navy SEALs to cooperate after our money's worthless.
And the thing is that's to me the problem with their formula, which is that they are wealthy billionaires until the door of the bunker closes.
Right.
And then the security or the people who know how to deal with the plumbing or the actual vital workers or the people with vital skills, they become the value proposition. I mean, it connects to actually what we're living through right now when it came to, for instance, the pandemic. Grocery store workers, frontline medical folks, now railroad workers, right? These are the people who actually make the things that make society a society, that actually are the people who do the things that we actually need. And the billionaires with so much wealth, once that bunker door proverbially closes, they don't really add much value. So let's go down the sort of dark path for a second here before we get to the deeper meaning here. A lot of these billionaires, it sounds like, are thinking about how to impose control, how to maintain their power in the case of an event, an apocalypse, in a bunker, maintaining control through, for instance, you mentioned keeping the codes to a food vault memorized in their mind. Talk a little bit about how kind of pointless that could end up being, but also about what kind of mindset that says that they are in, a mindset of social control.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like you would think Machiavelli 101 should teach someone that, you gotta, if you're depending on your generals for your power, then your generals are in charge, not you.
Right.
It's not going to last very long. They don't seem to get that. So they were talking about, well, what if everyone on the compound had to have an implant, and then we could use the implant sort of as a shock collar, so that, as an advanced form of shock, so that it would ensure compliance, or we could have robot guards that protect us from the regular
it's
guards.
like straight out of the old movie, the old 80s sci-fi movie Fortress, where they had
Right.
something called the intestinator, where you were in the prison and they put something in your intestines, and if you got out of line, they would like click a button and it would like inflict massive pain in your intestines, and if you went really out of line, it would blow you up. I mean, this stuff is straight out of sci-fi.
Right. And that's because these dudes are straight out of sci-fi. I mean, that's, when you really want to go dark, they are using, Walking Dead and Westworld instead of a basic college education to inform themselves about how society works.
I would ask that then a follow-up. What do you think is wrong with their view of how society works? I guess what I'm getting at is, do you think it's wrong for them to look out at society right now and say, listen, if shit really hits the fan and I want to create safety for myself, I need to be most afraid of the worst human instincts. Like I need to basically presume that the world is going to become Cormac McCarthy's The Road. Is that wrong in your view?
I mean, I think it's wrong, but I mean, I know where it's funny. I haven't talked about this at all, but where it really comes from, that view of humans, is kind of Walter Lippmann and Edward Bernays, the guys who started public relations. They were looking at
the bewildered herd.
Right. The mob, as Gustav, Le Bon called it, the mob of people, the crowd, and that they kind of looked at a distorted, or maybe not so distorted, view of Freud, who said that there's another person inside each of us who's this kind of wild, savage thing that left to its own devices is going to just try to get whatever it wants and kill, and if that part of the person isn't appealed to, either with consumerism or something, then they're going to go Nazi. And I feel like these guys maybe didn't think that way because they're so into these ideas of self-sovereignty and Ayn Rand and autonomy and all. Then Trump became president, and January 6th and things like that happened. And that's when they started to say, oh, humanity, I mean, they always thought this, but now they had their proof that humanity is a problem, and we solve for that problem with technology. That's the way they've really looked at it. And that's always been my pet peeve, as an early cyberpunk internet enthusiast kind of guy. And here's the net's going to come and unleash the possibilities of the collective human imagination. Then along came Wired magazine and a bunch of, capitalists who are betting on the digital future, and they turned the apparatus around. So instead of people using technology to realize their dreams, we use technology on people in order to control their behavior. All of, behavioral finance in Las Vegas was ported over to technology platforms in order to control people. So they spend their days thinking, how do I control people with tech? Of course, when they ponder the apocalypse, they think about it in terms of, how do I control people in that situation?
Now, what's the alternative to this? And what I mean by that is, if you were a billionaire and you're looking out at the world, climate change, pandemics, social unrest, the unraveling of democracy, and you open that sort of portal in your mind, and I really do think it's kind of a dark descent. Once you start arming yourself, once you start creating, back in the 50s and 60s, a nuclear bunker, where does it ever end? But let's just say you had the mindset. You, with having written this book, you had billions and billions of dollars. What's the alternative way of looking at how to either survive an apocalypse or how to make yourself, your family safe in a quote unquote event?
Oh, it's interesting. Once you have billions of dollars, you've already succumbed to the illness. It's like You know what I mean? If you have billions of dollars, as I see it, you have a form of economic obesity, right? You've extracted way too much. That's why Mark Zuckerberg talks about, oh, I'm going to give back 99% of my money. It's like, dude, you took too much to begin with. You can't just shove it back in the economy where you want to. But, what I told these guys when they were, pondering my question about how to maintain control of their security force after the apocalypse, I said, well, why don't you start treating them really nice now? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, get your head of security and pay for, I was being mean, but I said, take your head of security and pay for his daughter's bat mitzvah today. And he'll have a hard time shooting you between the eyes in the bunker tomorrow, because he'll look at your face and think, that guy paid for little Muriel's bat mitzvah. How can I do it? But I was trying to get them to see, oh, maybe there's an easier way. Maybe if I don't make enemies of the entirety of humanity, I won't have to protect myself from them. And maybe, if I could take a different approach to business, because their idea is to outrun the damage they're creating. They think that they can somehow earn enough money or make enough technology to insulate themselves from the reality they're creating by earning money and building technology in that way. Like they can drive a car that goes fast enough to escape from its own exhaust. And it just doesn't work. And they keep making this devil's bargain. I keep thinking about, I just read a piece about Epson printers and how there's this printer they make that's pre-programmed to brick itself after a certain number of thousand pages.
Talk about planned obsolescence, right?
Right. It just bricks itself. And there's no real reason to do it, right? They claim there's a sponge that might get overused. You can't replace a 3-cent sponge. You got to. So the person who does that knows there's climate change. They're not stupid. They know now we got to send more slave kids into mines to get the rare earth metals to make more printers. We're going to have to take this used printer and dump it on another toxic waste dump in Brazil where other children are going to pick at it for renewable parts. But I'm going to earn enough more marginal money on the sale of this extra printer to somehow escape or insulate. I'm going to outrun the devastation I'm causing. And it just doesn't work. And that's I think, the calculation they can't make anymore. This kind of insulation equation they've been making to use exponential growth to outrun the devastation in their own wake isn't really working. Their own homes are getting singed by forest fires. Their kids are getting addicted to social media, no matter how much they try to keep their kids from using the technologies they themselves make. It's coming back. The cycles of feedback, that's the whole thing that Norbert Wiener originally told us about digital technology. It's cybernetic. It comes back. It's circular. It's like instant karma. And now they're like, oh shoot, what am I going to do?
When I think about this, and I'm sort of addicted to dystopian sci-fi. I mean, that's like a personal admission here. Like I just consume so much of it. And
but you know how to make it. But you make it. Where you transcend it though is you make it funny. You allow us to see our obsession as small. We can laugh. And when we laugh, we go, oh my God, I'm trying to escape from this. I've got to turn around and make friends with my neighbors. I'm going to have to sit around that table. I don't want to give away the end of your movie, but sit around. I mean, my God, I was weeping and laughing at the same time at the end of that movie. Because it's like, that's my whole, I wrote a book before this called Team Human. Just saying, just look in someone else's eyes. Just be with someone else and you'll see, oh my God, I've been going in entirely the wrong direction my whole life.
Totally. And I think, though, it is as I said, it's a slippery slope and a descent into a kind of abyss. If you start creating a bunker mentality, I kind of get to the point where I'm like, listen, okay, let's say the event happens. I haven't stockpiled weapons in my crawl space. I haven't stockpiled, large quantities of food. I haven't built myself a bunker. I sort of think, listen, the event, if you will, is sort of all bets are off at that point. Like you have so many bigger problems than having, a gun in your basement to defend yourself, having a extra water around. Like it's kind of I sound naive here, but it's kind of like once that happens, so many bets are off that it's actually almost impossible for an individual to plan a contingency plan for that. Right. That what you end up at is the idea, back to the most ancient idea possible, that we're all in this together, that we are a tribal species, that we really can't as a civilization survive without us all kind of working together. I mean, you can call that any ism you want. You can call it socialism, you can call it communitarianism, whatever you want to call it. But I think ultimately that's what we're really talking about here, that the billionaires that you profile in this book have a view that they can somehow get beyond that basic reality of human life on the planet that has sustained human life on the planet, and that you end, that's their vision. And what's countering their vision is what has allowed humans to survive for millennia, which is a much different vision of we're all in this together. I mean, is that basically where you come down?
Yeah, and then some. So yes, these guys have taken Stuart Brand at his word when he told the early computer counterculture, we are as gods and may as well get good at it. They all want to sort of operate one level above the rest of us. Peter Thiel says, go from 0 to 1 and have your business be one order of magnitude above the others. Mark Zuckerberg, when Facebook stops working, he goes meta, one level above everybody else. The whole digital realm is a symbol system above Jeffrey Epstein, who wants to live as a god above his, enslaved women, billionaires who use derivatives and derivatives of derivatives. They're not in the market. They're financialized. Again, one abstract level above the real marketplace. So yeah, and it even gets to their understanding of themselves as a self-sovereign individual. I mean, what does even that construction mean? You're self-sovereign means you're like king of yourself. You don't just objectify everyone else. You objectify you and go one level above. And of course they look at the end that way, but they look at the now that way too, which is why those ends are happening. But you take a tech bro and send him to Burning Man and give him some ayahuasca or down to South America, and then they come back like, oh my gosh, the earth spoke to me. We're all one, and I've got to create the new global community. And the way we do that is Control-Alt-Delete. We reboot this thing. They become accelerationists like Steve Bannon. We just got to pedal to the metal, let this civilization die so we can clear cut a forest and build something. It's like there's a $1 zillion nation that they're trying to build in Saudi Arabia called NEOM, which is this super $1 zillion high-tech solar powered blah, 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 blah. And they're building it all the way across the desert. The one problem, there are these Bedouins who've been living there for God knows how many thousand years, that they got to get them off. So it's like, wait a minute, in order to create our new, humanity 2.0 sustainable eco thing, we've got to get rid of the people who've actually been doing it in community successfully since before our civilization began.
And underscoring the word in communities, right? Surviving in the desert in a community.
They don't have community, though. They can't even relate to other people. I mean, I've got studies in the book I refer to that show that when people become billionaires, their frontal lobes, they operate as if they've been in a brain trauma. They lose the ability to have empathy. You show a billionaire a picture of like a starving baby, and the part of their brain that's supposed to light up, it doesn't even light up. So it's as if they've damaged themselves by earning that much money.
Now, in your book, you met with a guy named J.C. Cole, who is the former president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Latvia. Cole is doing something somewhat similar to these other billionaires, but with a little bit more of a different approach. Talk a little bit about what J.C. Cole is doing, how his plan differs, and whether it offers some, constructive lessons in contrast to the other billionaires you profile.
I mean, the great thing about J.C. Cole, this guy emailed me after my first piece about the billionaires went up, and he's like, "Oh, you got to talk. I got to talk to you. I've got the answer for these billionaires." And I meet this guy, and he's like a total MAGA, anti-Hillary. He can't even say the word Hillary. He goes her or she. He's like a full-on MAGA with the hat and the whole thing, and he had guns he let me shoot in his field. But it's like that, that horseshoe thing they talk about. I guess me as an anarcho-syndicalist, radical, whatever, I find something in common across the gap of the horseshoe with this MAGA guy. So he wants to build these eco farms, these sustainable farms using old tech, seeds, chickens, roosters, all the stuff that apparently modern farms don't have. Modern farms, they buy pre-sprouted things and plant them in the ground, and they don't have roosters. They just have chickens that lay the eggs, and if they need more chickens, they buy the eggs from somewhere else. So he's like, this is not how you really do it. You've got to have biodiesel and all this stuff. And then he told me about how he's got, the Navy SEALs pre-hired to come in and protect these things. So the idea is a billionaire or multimillionaire pays like $10 million now, and they have a guaranteed place at one of these farms situated an hour or two from major cities. So there's one near Princeton, one in the Poconos, one somewhere else. And I said, well, what do you do about, a motorcycle gang with machine guns, I'm thinking Walking Dead, that come to the perimeter of the farm and want to take all your stuff? And he said, frankly, I'm less concerned about the motorcycle gang than I am about the woman standing at the end of the driveway with a baby and no food. I don't want to be in that moral quandary. So what he did, what his business plan includes, is when you invest the $10 million, you're investing, yes, to get a place in the farm, but you're also investing in an education company that he's starting that's going to teach different communities how to start their own sustainable eco farms. Because in his understanding of security, and this is as security, the fewer people there are running around in motorcycle gangs, the more people there are in their own eco farms, the less his people are going to have to worry about. But as a result, none of these tech bros are investing in his farm. They're looking at him as like a commie pinko lefty, communitarian, rather than having the necessary resolve to protect them from everybody else.
Okay, let me just play devil's advocate here. What is wrong with a billionaire using his or her money to try to secure themselves and their family in advance of an apocalypse? Like, what is fundamentally wrong with that? And what would you do in that situation?
I mean, in one sense, there's nothing wrong with them spending their money any way they want. The problem is more, I think, operating a business under the presumption that the world is going to end. So when you think it's going to go, and all you have to do is earn enough money and gather enough technology to protect yourself from the apocalypse, then you are more likely to take a rather scorched earth policy in your business transactions. You're going to be more likely to be the guy who makes printers that brick themselves, and accelerate the disaster for everybody else. The operative word in the subtitle of this book is Escape Fantasies of the Tech Billionaires. For a while I had it Escape Plans of the Tech Billionaires. And then I realized the problem with that is people are going to think I'm taking these plans seriously. They can't. It doesn't work. What's wrong? The ultimate reason why it's wrong for them to be spending all this money building bunkers, it is futile, right? It's just futile. They're fooling themselves, and then they operate differently. They run their businesses differently. They speak publicly differently, and it engenders a mindset in them that all of their customers, that all of us, that everybody else in the world except them and their own families and security guards are the enemy, are the ones to leave behind, rather than the potential friends and communities to join.
So I want to end this conversation by tying it back to where we are now in politics. One of the takeaways I have from your book, one of the undercurrents of it, I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that I think some of this, my guess is that psychologically it's tied to the end of the social contract. And by that I mean, we are living in an age in which many of the things that would be considered the social contract feel like they have been demonized and have broken down. By that I mean, there's been an anti-government ideology that is put out there that the government is evil, and not just the government, anything sort of in the public sector, the public space, is evil or inept, cannot be relied upon to deliver public benefits. It gets raided by corruption and cronyism, that it does not materially improve the lives of regular people. And so I guess my question is, I wonder how much of this I have to flee, how much of this I have to build my own bunker, how much of this I need to just be able to go it alone, ties back to a broader feeling, whether fair or unfair, that the community, the public sector, the public space, cannot or will not protect the civilization, the society, cannot protect your family from all of the things that are happening. And in many cases, the public space is on the side of the people and the industries that are creating the problems. So how much of it ties back to the sort of this lack of faith in the social contract?
Well, I mean, there's always been a tension between, corporate America and, the strident individualism of Bernays and the National Association of Marketers. You're the one, you deserve a break today. And the more kind of Roosevelt style, good government, we're going to protect people, and it's like the World's Fair. Most people don't know the World's Fair was corporate America saying, we are going to protect your future, not government. It's corporations that will make America good. What's good for GM is good for the USA. And that tension has always been there. And it kind of went a little further during Reagan and Thatcher and a little bit less maybe, during Carter or Clinton or someone. But it's always been back and forth. And somehow I think digital technology has exacerbated this tension or has pushed things further on the side of the individual, both because the companies themselves are dependent on highly individualized exit strategies for the winners, hockey stick growth. I'm going to get out of this thing with all this money and leave a scorched earth, I don't care what, in my wake. Even the investors holding the bag since AOL. It's like, where I'm going to get out with my winnings and leave them behind. But also the technological ethos itself. It's an iPhone, not a We phone, an iPad, not an Us pad. These are devices that really do promote our individuality because, and this is what Timothy Leary told me back in the 80s, that the kids, the guys at the Media Lab, the technologists developing these things, have this vision of somehow building a technological womb around themselves. He thought that they were still upset that their mothers were unable to anticipate their every need and bring them, what they needed, a diaper or milk or whatever they wanted. And now they want to kind of recreate the womb with technology and have everything brought to them and have algorithms anticipate and not make them have to worry about women and nature and moisture and dirt and all the stuff that empirical science was really, that it promised us would be put under control by technology and science. So they're really in ascendance, and we are living with the devices and on the platforms that these very fearful, highly individualistic children develop. They are plucked from college as freshmen, right? Before they've taken history, ethics, economics, and then they transfer parental authority onto a Peter Thiel and then build a platform that we all use without realizing what it's actually doing to us. So I agree that somehow a strident capitalist economics and a stridently individualistic technology have dovetailed and created this culture that we're living in. But all of us, I think, are slowly realizing, gosh, it was more fun when there was one barbecue pit on the end of the block in my middle class neighborhood than it is having my own barbecue in my wealthy neighborhood. How do I get back to that? And if our value system changes to that and emulating that experience rather than emulating Jeff Bezos in the ultimate version of white flight in his Blue Origin spaceship or his yacht with a service yacht, we may be able to restore this thing yet.
The book is a terrific book. I encourage everybody to read it. It's called Survival of the Richest, Escape Fantasies of the Tech Billionaire. Douglas Rushkoff, he's a professor of media theory and digital economics at the City University of New York. He also has a podcast called Team Human. You can find his work at rushkoff.com. Douglas Rushkoff, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me and finding me.